What's up, family? What's up, my peoples? We're back again real quick. This segment is called Trading Places. It's your main man, RPG, the rugged prophetic ghost. The rugged prophetic ghost. We live in this world. We're not of this world. This world is not our home. We're going to tell you how we could take back control of our lives, control of our cities, control of our families, control of our nation, control of our generational wealth. One word: Brexodus. Brexodus. Cash flow flows two different directions in Brexodus. Cash flow flows back to the rightful owner in Brexodus, and the unlawful, unrightful ones who have inhumanely secured prosperity at the expense of capitalizing on dehumanization economically. Code violations. Supernatural code violations capitalizing on dehumanization. That's called inhumanity. Society claims to have a humane society where you care for animals, but you capitalize on dehumanization economically against human beings. That's inhumanity. That's a code violation. So those who continue, once you put the Brexodus principles in place, they have to exit, and the cash flow will come back to those who engage in the supernatural principles that all of nature was created on. Nature was created in a supernatural life cycle of replenishment. Nature was created in a supernatural life cycle of replenishment. There is no waste in nature. That's why you have scavengers, animals who scavenge, because nature was designed not to have any waste. Now think about it. The only reason there is waste is because unnatural beings living unnatural lives, capitalizing on dehumanization economically, waste resources. One man's trash, the man who's capitalizing on dehumanization economically, is another man's treasure. Those who return back to their principles of replenishment, this is what Brexodus is about. And once you put nature back in its supernatural life cycle, the unnatural have to exit. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce our people to replenishment, recycling. So the first thing you recycle, that you replenish, is the fruits, the profits from your hands. And then when you produce profits from the works of your hands, whatever it is that you are skilled at, you must own. And then you reinvest the profits back in a product for others to consume on a mass level. They have unnaturally taught our people to do the opposite. Our people are taught to unnaturally bring their product, their asset, to individuals to capitalize on, squander, squeeze out the profits that they want from it, and leave the rest wasted so that the one who has the asset cannot compete with them for the ownership of the cash flow. The only way you get to own an asset is if you created it. The only way you get to dominate an asset class is if you put in the time to master the skill and you're the best at it. Then you get dominion over that. That's called the supernatural life cycle. All right, so I'm going to show you some snapshots. So the first thing, I'm going to show you that individuals come here to the United States of America from third world countries, come and learn skills, then go back to the third world. I'm going to show you a man that came from Bangladesh. Bangladesh is poorer than any U.S. inner city that you could think of. There's no USA inner city, because that's what I'm focusing on, that's worse than Bangladesh. He comes here, he learns finance, goes into business, he develops partnership that has a investment group to give micro loans. He goes back to Bangladesh with technology and a skill in financing and business to apply the newfound technology that he got in the USA and a network of investors that he put together while in the USA, and then went back to his third world country. And for 15 years, how many years did I say? 15. It's only going to take us 14. 15 years. He took the micro lending of the investment pool that he put together, the network, some new technology, his skill and knowledge in finance and business, and gave access to the new technology to the third world country. And if you give access to something of value that will help any third world impoverished nation come out of the third world into the first world, they will purchase and consume and then generate a return on the investment. It is a profitable enterprise for you to introduce access to go from third world to first world based off technology, business, investment. That is the definition of business. Finding a need, providing a solution to the need, they will consume it, and a return on your investment comes out of that's profitability. It's the opposite of capitalizing on dehumanization economically. And when you apply this model to the asset that our people have, harness the technology that we have, bring a pool of investors together. Now, they've done this in the NFL, pool of investors. Each team in each city is a pool of investors who own the team. Then they launch a league and they recruit talent who they can't put the product out there. They go get the talent. But in the model that they do here, it's all capitalizing on dehumanization economically. It's waste. But other people come here and they go back home and they don't waste and squander.
Would you tell me briefly what the Legatum Center for Development and Entrepreneurship is about?
The Legatum Center promotes entrepreneurship in developing countries through MIT students. So we give fellowships to MIT students, either existing ones or incoming ones, who have a desire or the potential to start an enterprise in poor countries. So we give them money to do their studies, the graduate students, who then develop a business plan while they're at MIT, and then they would go back, or either they could be Americans or they could be coming from developing countries, or could be from anywhere. But as long as they go to developing countries to start a for-profit enterprise, we are very much interested in backing them out. Okay. So they come to MIT perhaps with a half-baked ideas, but we allow them to bake it further and complete the business plan, and then they would go back and hopefully implement them.
And you just announced a prize today for $1 million for technology for a for-profit company?
Our funder, namely Legatum Capital, have announced a prize. Okay. It's the same team that has funded us and also that prize. That's the relationship between the prize and us.
Okay, and that's in Africa for for-profit companies with innovative technology?
Including Africa, but for developing countries in general, for-profit companies. Yes.
Got it. Based on the most innovative technology, is that
based
right?
on innovation, the level of novelty, based on also the impact, and how the entrepreneur can convince the judges how sustainable it will be. But it's for-profit, technology-based, that is going to help a developing country, is what the purpose is.
Okay.
So we're not creating nothing new. So to summarize, in the mid-90s, 1995, he goes to Bangladesh with Legatum Capital. That's a pool of investors. We're treating this is a bag full of investors. This is every team that I have coached, every team that I have played on, every team that I and my children have coached and played on, championship level, all over the country. This is our Legatum Capital. So follow me. The owner groups throughout the country, the teams that we've played on, the institutions we've gone to school at, and in each one of these cities, we're approaching like it's Bangladesh. And the team or the institution or the family group in that city is the ownership group, is the Legatum Capital. So Legatum Capital created an investment pool for him to go to Bangladesh and take technology and a business model and go throughout Bangladesh, turning them on to a new business model around technology, which was cell phones in the 90s. And after he generated, in over a 15-year period, billions of dollars of annual revenue, over 400 million cell phones was sold throughout a third world impoverished country. And after the 15 years, he comes back and creates a school of business unique in the USA. Nowhere else do they have a school of business that simply puts up money, for people who have a business model, who want to come and perfect the business model for third world countries. We're putting up $1 million for the best business plan to go into a third world country and do exactly what it is we did. That's what our school of business is. We've done the same exact thing. So we're going to have a school of business that these pool of investors, these are the investors from all over these are the teams, the owners, who going to get a return on investment from the day-to-day leagues, the day-to-day business, the day-to-day everything over the next 14 years. The only difference is this is totally opposite of the business model and the business cycle in the West. This is competing against the capitalizing on dehumanization business model. So they created a movie. Hollywood created a movie called Trading Places. Y'all remember it? Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd, Trading Places. And some rich, wealthy, old guys on Wall Street made a bet against the impoverished Eddie Murphy. Made a bet. And it was a comedy. And people laughed and all of that. But you better know, that wasn't fake. That wasn't a joke. That's reality. They have bet against. And all Brexit is us using insider trader information. See, we connected to the word that says some young people were supposed to come and lead the way. The golden child, the golden children. And we in the age of the golden child. And the golden children are not accepting this capitalized on dehumanization economically no more. And so we creating a model where we all could come together and do what they're doing all over the world. But just right here in our own neighborhoods and backyards.
My name is Iqbal Kadir. I'm the founder of the Legatum Center at MIT, which helps MIT students establish ventures in developing countries, usually technology-based.
I came to America 40 years ago now, and a country very rich in innovations. But I happen to be coming from Bangladesh, which is not so rich in innovations these days. I was very lucky to come from that country because it represents the context, a bigger part of the global context, better than the United States or Canada. I believe in a two-way street. The innovations can enrich the context, and the context, of course, fosters innovations. Innovations live in the first world, and the large markets are out in the third world. They're not necessarily coming together. A general problem.
Innovation is in the first world. We live in the first world. But the opportunities is in the third world. Our communities are the third world. And everybody else got the sense to come here, get the skills, get the resources, get the and then go back to the third world and make a killing, giving access to the third world to come into the first world. We the only ones who won't tap into the first world cash flow and technology and then go to the poorest of the poor and transform their lives.
Worldwide. And I thought I could do something about it because I came to a rich country and I came from a country that is innovation poor.
people have headaches. If they get an aspirin, they relieve their headache. So you might see social problems because their quote-unquote problems are not getting solved. And so if you find
You might see social problems because their day-to-day problems are not being solved. If people have a headache, they'll purchase an aspirin. So watch, you going to use the aspirin as an analogy for technology, investment, whatever. If you got a solution to the day-to-day problem that they having, even in third world countries, they will pay for it if it'll help improve their lives. And there is a market, a untapped, insane cash flow that we just squandering and wasting.
a means, the innovations are kind of the means to solve a specific problem, then that problem goes away. If I have a headache and an aspirin is low cost enough, it does take care of my headache, I am going to take it. But if you bring me a very complex medicine that is not actually taking care of my headache, then of course I will shun it. I will say no need, or I cannot afford it. Okay, so it has to be both affordable and also effective.
Affordable and effective. So our application is we make it affordable by removing the barriers to entry for them to get into the business plan, get into the Ascension program. Then we make it effective by when they develop the skill, the return on investment is we made the investment in you. Now we're going to pay you what you're worth. $23 an hour, $45 an hour, $76 an hour, $91 an hour for those who are in training, learning how to become archangel investors in the ownership group. Our whole job is to take our people from the rat race mindset. That's all they know. And so once they have a skill set, the ascension between rat race mentality and Jewel of the Nile archangel investor. They have a Silicon Valley that Wall Street owns now. And they have so-called angel investors out of Silicon Valley. But they invest in capitalizing on dehumanization economically. They invest in wasting and squandering, extracting profits, causing inequality gaps, creating third world in the first world. That's what they invest in. So that's called an opportunity for those of us who are masters at replenishment. Replenishment means recycle the original. We are the original. Replenishment means recycle the original back to its original state and upcycle those willing to be upcycled from inhumanity, from capitalizing on dehumanization economically to archangel investors. And then those who won't be upcycled, Brexodus. You got to go. Brexodus. It's that simple. So let me show you the areas of waste. So he simply saw my people is cut off from, my people are cut off. It's 95 to 2000. And my people is cut off from the world because they can't communicate. They can't tap in. So over here in the first world, they got these things called cell phones. And every year they get more and more powerful with the microprocessor, and it's a walking, living, breathing computer. So not only can they communicate, but they can conduct business on the internet globally. We in business. They bypass trying to take personal computers out there. Listen, they already know how to communicate and talk. Dial that number. Get on that internet. Send that package. Massive, massive financial explosion. We could do the same thing just by simply looking at our communities where we come from. We got individuals who come from Marcy projects, and they celebrate they $1 billion owner. They a billionaire. Then they partner up with Russian oligarchs. You know what an oligarch is? When Putin came into power at the same time in the 90s, Russia was a communist state. So they simply, as they tried to come into the 21st century, they said all of the assets and all of the companies that the government owns, we're going to choose 25 to 30 lapdogs that's going to do our bidding, and we're going to make them all billionaires because we're going to give them the assets. And they're going to be loyal to me as the prime minister who gave them the assets and made them wealthy. These cats, we the only people in the world who get down here and grind. It's the only place in the world where people come here, learn business models and learn harness technology and learn, and then go to the third world. Everywhere else, these governments, China is the same way. China is still a communist country. And they try to talk about China got the greatest economy in the world. It's a communist country. The Chinese government is dumping they're printing money. They print their own money. And then they dole out the money to the businesses that are loyal to them. Oh, how hard is it to make a profit when the government is giving you the bread straight up? Like, come on. They try and beat us in the head. Like, as if, China is doing something magnificently great. Listen, the only people who is playing themselves is our people by not harnessing. So we taking a 90-day. We're doing a 90-day joint. We're giving y'all until April the 8th. For y'all to say, I want to be a part of either the Ascension Pipeline to develop skills to be able to be one of the individuals on the ground in our community, just like the people on the ground in their community got invested in, and I'll be willing to come back to that same community and continue that business or continue that league. I'll reinvest in that studio. I want to go through that Ascension program. I'll take that 190 grand a year. I'll take that business plan over the next 14 years that'll show me how to take a portion of that 190 and reinvest in the next wave of individuals behind you. That's how you ascend to the next level of Archangel investor. Because then the returns coming in off of the investments that you made, you no longer even concerned about no 190,000. Listen, because the return on investment far supersedes. These cats is making billions of dollars annually in Bangladesh and created a school at MIT which created the same pipeline that I'm introducing to our people. Now they got an ongoing pipeline. They put up $1 million. They like, we trying to cookie cut and we trying to industrialize thousands of people to do exactly what we did in the 90s. 15-year run. Here go $1 million. Go over there and innovate. Just to show you.
Mongoloid tribe types.
Just to show you, they beat you in your head. They beating you in your head telling you that some clowns in the 1920 started some football league, telling you that some European in the YMCA sat down and created basketball. Yeah, all right. It's called Hellenism. They tell you that they created it, so you will allow them to own it. Here it is. And these is the losers. These is the worst of the worst. These are the Philistines of Egypt. These are the Philistines. The people who worship the god Dagon. The Europeans called them the Dogon tribe of West Africa. These are the Philistines. So if the Philistines all throughout the word was the runts of Cush and Ham, and if the Philistines is the height and the pinnacle of what the Europeans look to, then what in the world should you be doing, sons and daughters of Ham and Cush? Philistines are the same individuals who then became the Moors out of Senegal, West Sudan, went up into Morocco, partnered with Europe. This is why the Europeans still to this day, Sirius the Dog Star and all that, they got that from the Dogon. They put the Dogon on the pedestal, and the Dogon are the scavengers from my family group.
The Kens, and they remixed with the Olmecs, which resulted in a sub-tribe called the Hopi.
The Olmecs.
The Hopi clan was taught the religion of the Dogon. And
they talk about Mexico. They talk about South America. This is how Hellenism. This is how they do Hellenism. So they give credit. They give credit to the idol worshippers for being in the Americas before the Europeans. They give credit to those who worship the same fallen sun gods. Oh, they don't mind acknowledging that the Olmecs were the first in North, Central, South America. They don't mind acknowledging that. Why? Because the Olmecs acknowledged the Romans. The Egyptians, Cleopatra, married Julius Caesar. Before Julius Caesar went down there, the Emperor of Rome went down and married the Egyptian queen after God had broken the back of Egypt and cursed Egypt. The Greeks go down there and set up shop and create their headquarters of Greece in Alexandria. That is the capital of city of Egypt. This is where this relationship between the West and the Dogon, and they launched Western civilization by studying the pagan rituals of the Philistines, the Dogon. They just changed their name, Olmecs, so you would not be able to connect the dots back to the Word of God and know that this is a defeated foe. They ain't got no claim to no land. They can't claim no type of civilization. They can't build no civilization. They can't build no nations. They can't break down no laws. They can't create no laws. They can't create no statutes. They can't do nothing. What they could do is an illusion, a magic trick. This is why they give you Disney. This is why they hit you with Disney so hard. They can hit you with a mirage to make you deceived to believe that they have authority. And that is the only game they play. So now when they want you to think that they got strength and power, now they elevate the Olmec. They elevate the Dogon. Look how wise they were. They were the first to come across the Atlantic. Look how... It's the game. They don't tell you that they followed our ancestors who crossed those straits in 538 AD. They don't tell you that. The word of God tell you that. I send my bride into a place prepared for her by God, out of the reach of the dragon. These cats is coming across the Atlantic following our people, our ancestors. And our ancestors is still breaking their back in the new lands like they was breaking their back before they left Africa. The only reason why they ran through Africa was because our ancestors left. Were led to go to a new promised land, land flowing with milk and honey. Then these cats dominated. They do what scavengers do. But because they couldn't produce land flowing with milk and honey, now the Philistines is leaving Africa. If that they got the whole continent. They got the whole continent. What they coming across the... It's still gold and natural resources there right now. Why they coming across? Our people listen, that's chump change. They following us. And you got a nerve to allow them to put you on the bottom of something? And they gonna give them credit.
Given the secret of the stars, several hundred years later, the Hindu East Indians arrived in Mexico, and they bred with
the Hindu East Indian. And they bred with the Egyptian Olmec, and the words say, the iron will not mix with the clay. This is where you get the one drop rule from. This is why every nation, kindred, tongue, and people come out of Cush. Because God said, the dominant gene of my seed that I gave enmity to, I will put enmity between your seed and the serpent seed. And the iron will not mix with the clay. The iron will be recessive, and the dominion that I gave to the clay will be dominant. And you have dominant and recessive genes. And the one drop rule says, one drop of ham, you ham. No matter how light you are, no matter how slanted your eyes are, no matter how straight your hair is, one drop of ham, the iron will not mix with the clay. They won't teach it in anthropology, though, because they teach you evolution. They won't teach it in archaeology, though, because they hitting you with Darwin's origin of the species. All of these sciences come out of alchemy. This is a satanic, black, magical lie. Anthropology, archaeology, all to usurp. Iron will not mix with the clay. Either grafted in with me, and I'll embrace you back. I am the vine, you are the branches. You get grafted back into me, in the Kush. Or you get separated out and I put enmity and you be serpent seed. It ain't even no other question.
the Mexicans and produced Mongoloid tribe types like the Inuit and Eskimo, who migrated far north into Canada and Alaska. Out of the Mexican also came the They also imported the rubber tree, which is only indigenous.
Listen to this. They imported a rubber tree.
With that people. Yeah, I mean, Olmec
This the Mexicans telling people on tour the Olmecs was here first. The Dogon, the Egyptians. They the last of the Nubians to arrive. But they the only ones that they give credit to. This is how they began Hellenism, to wipe away your history, your ancestry, your royal lineage. And all we saying is, son, if we dominate, we rule, we gonna own all our assets. NFL ain't create none of this. You about to see who created it.
Olmec means rubber. Rubber people, right?
The Olmecs were a tribe in Africa called.
You see that Atlantis? You see that Atlantis? Atlanta, Georgia comes out of Atlantis. They came across the Atlantic Ocean. The individuals that they worshiped and deified was the Olmecs. Atlantis is the Europeans' narrative of creating a fake mythical city and taking on the identity of these Egyptians. There's no such thing as Atlantis. They created a city, Atlanta, Georgia, in celebration of Atlantis, the European stolen identity of the Olmecs, the Dogon. That's where you get Atlantis, the lie of Atlantis from, the myth of Atlantis.
Dogon in Mali. When the Dogons migrated to America, they also imported the rubber tree, which is only indigenous to Africa. The Dogons used the sap from the rubber tree to make shoes, coat.
They used the sap from the rubber tree to make shoes. The very first people to make sneakers, Nike, Adidas. Once again, these are all things. Oh, y'all just gonna let Nike run away with 60 billion? Nah, homie. Create our own. Nah, you just gonna let Adidas run away with 34 billion? Nah, homie. No. No, our ancestors dominated these individuals. And these individuals bit off of that which we dominated it and then introduced it to the Europeans. They gonna tell you 400 years later that they created the sporting industry. They create
capes, and they were the first to introduce soles on shoes in the New World. The name Olmec means rubber people.
Rubber people.
The rubber was also used to make large balls for the Olmecan ball game ceremonies, which was...
The rubber was also used to make large balls for the Olmecian ball games. So where did Greece and Rome get their Olympic games from? That they dedicated to the goddess Nike? Who were the greatest gladiators ever in history? Sure wasn't no European. And once again, this is the runt of our litter. This is the waste. This is the pigs of our litter. This ain't the lion. These the hyenas of Ham. These the hermit crabs of Ham. These the buzzards of Ham. And the Europeans worship them. And then they did the bait and switch, and they like, listen, man, we keep losing to our big brothers. We gonna let y'all spread the magical sciences and lies. We're gonna erase the history so they don't even know nothing about the true history. And maybe enough time will pass, and we gonna play the role of the servant while y'all worship us. While y'all worship us, this is why the Moors come out here and talk this trash as if they the keepers of some, like, you ain't even been around long enough to keep no nothing. And when your God went head up with the Ark of my covenant, the symbol of my covenant with the Creator, God showed the Philistines, the Moors, the Romans, and the Greeks whose God is God. Laid Dagon, the god of the Dogon, god of the Moors, the god of Pan-Africans, the Asiatic black man, laid him flat on his face and then broke him up in 3 pieces on the 3rd day. Laws? What? Science? Mathematics? Where? You got alchemy, we got husbandry. Alchemy can only produce death, destruction, fruit of the poisonous tree. Husbandry creates life, replenishment, fruitfulness, abundance. Let's go. Bring your science, bring your math, bring your laws, whatever. Bring the alchemy, we'll bring the husbandry. And we'll see, by their fruit ye shall know them. Line them all up. Anyone, anybody you want to bring. Just like Mount Carmel. We ain't changing that same blueprint. Just like Mount Carmel. Come in the name of Pan. You could come in whatever name, Baphomet, whatever name y'all want to prance around with.
Played in large stone arenas.
They played in large stone arenas. The ball games was played in large stone arenas.
When Christopher Columbus arrived in the West, he states that he saw natives kicking around a large ball that was made of some type of acacia.
This is the most important. When Christopher Columbus arrived, he said that he saw natives. Now y'all gotta understand. He's looking at Kush, the runts of Kush, and the runts of Kush are dealing with Christopher Columbus because the Moors been dealing with Europe since 700 AD. Of course, he has individuals who gonna do business with him. The Portuguese are the Moors who been in Europe since 700 AD. So when he come across the Spanish, the Spain, the Moranos, the mulattoes of Spain, all mulatto means is a mixture between Kush and the Germans. Mulatto, Latin, Spain, Christopher Columbus. All of these cats, it is my shade and darker. Talking about native Indian. All of the Moors. They from Sudan. They from Egypt, yo. The darkest beings on the planet, they talk about the natives. But this is the fallen with the fallen. They ain't never our people not doing business with Christopher Columbus. Our people not doing business with the Olmecs. That's why their civilizations died out. The Incas, the Aztecs. Where they at? We still here, yo. We still here. And all I'm trying to tell y'all is, it's another crash coming. All I'm trying to tell y'all is, the Brexit is, the Greeks and the Romans, they gonna find themselves in the same position that the Incas and the Aztecs is in. But the perfect time to invest is when the market is down. Because when the replenishment kicks in. When the fruitfulness kicks in, the market goes back up. And I'm trying to tell y'all that in this next worldwide Great Depression, the blueprint is to invest in the talents and the assets to make sure that they guarantee to bring a return. And so when everybody else is crushed outside of the covenant, fruitfulness is going to do what fruitfulness is supposed to do. But if we don't make the investment, if we separate it, if we divide it, you're going to be conquered. The only reason why they defeat our people is because we have been divided between Moors, between Hebrew Israelites, between Christians, between Islam, between Jehovah's Witness, between Church of Jesus Christ and the Latter-day Saints, Church of God in Christ. We've been divided. So the inferior who can't compete because they're unified and we divided, they keep winning. So we're going to unify these cities where we at. Once again, the elders is already in place. We've been building this infrastructure for this day. I got an army of team captains that I done played with across the country. Spanning from 1976, when my pops and moms was down here doing the same thing, to present day. All we doing is we doubling back to every team that we coached and won championships with. We taking these teams in the same city that we in, and we're investing in them and bringing the team up to a professional, networked together league that we gonna say we challenging for our image, for our wealth. We paying you back for capitalizing on dehumanization economically. We exposing the violation that has been done, how you're wasting our talents and resources. And all we trying to tell y'all is, y'all can join our network. And all I'm trying to say is to my brothers and sisters, February is the time for us to break bread. We have to make tangible investments to get the pool of talent that has been squandered into the leagues, into the uniforms, on the teams. We introducing our own currency, Havillah coins, which will be backed by the converted dollars that we invest and gold. And then the moment that we launch, April the 8th, then you eat from the returns. Just like the children of Israel, the Most High God said, okay, I'm going to have you on welfare, manna. You on heaven's welfare system. Hit you with the heavenly bread, the heavenly dough. The moment you enter into this covenant and you cross that Jordan River, oh, you going to eat of fields that you ain't plant. Yeah, them bank accounts of the IMF and the World Monetary Fund and the World Bank and of the Federal Reserve and all of them bank accounts, you will eat. You will eat from storehouses that you ain't fill up. From vineyards you ain't plant. That's called reparations. It's called plunder. They stole it, got to come back. That's just called Brexodus. This is called the layer cycle. It takes us bringing our first fruits, whatever he gave. And then he gonna take it, we gonna break it, he gonna multiply it, and we're gonna show the world how it's done. And when the whole world dip into this Great Depression, we're gonna be competing, eating, running, shooting, tackling, boxing, not feeling nothing. Not feeling a thing. Because the harvest that we producing up there in Brooklyn, we come to Chicago and play, yo, we breaking bread. When this team from Chicago come down to Orlando, it don't matter what's happening nowhere else. We coming and we breaking bread. We ain't got to look for no work. We ain't got no recession. What recession? Our babies is the models. They are the face of the league. They are the fashion statement. Our wives are the owners, are the quarterbacks, are the commissioners. They done trained them up. Ain't no recession. It could be a global recession everywhere else. This is how they did it in Goshen, yo. February is the time where we all decide what percentage we want to have, what level we want to be. Some of y'all don't have the sight and the vision to come in at the table as a Archangel Investments. Okay, so come in as, yo, I'm going to break bread on a lower level. I'm going to come in, get that business plan, learn the talent and the skill to be able to help the league and the businesses grow and thrive, like the gentleman who came to Bangladesh. He had to have people who are willing to purchase the new technology and the business and apply it in Bangladesh to generate the profit. Everybody can't be on the level of the Legatum capital, and everybody ain't gonna see the same vision, but our people got to see, yo, we got access to bypassing this global dip in recession. And we're gonna come to the table and we go, instead of going out here and working for them, my 2 free days, my 2 off days, I'm gonna put in 16 hours a day on my 2 off days. And we're gonna pay you the $23 an hour. We're gonna pay you the $45 an hour. Because we want to pay you enough to be able to walk away from that job, and enough to be able to be trained on how to become an Archangel investor. So then you can ascend. This is what the pipeline is about. The individuals in Bangladesh, they started off with a phone. They started off, first they came, and when one phone got in one village, then they came and they was just paying to be able to use the phone. But then they heard that the one phone that they was paying for, the individual got a micro loan from the dude to be able to put that phone there. And they was like, yo, I'm over in the next neighborhood over. Let me come here. Let me get the micro loan. I'm going to put the joint in my neighborhood, and then I'm going to charge them to come use the phone. This is exactly what they did, yo. Then somebody else learned, and then they put the person with the phone, they putting them on. They like, listen, you could do it in your village. You could do it in your village. The next person come, get the microloan, boom, boom, boom. And when people come to use the phone, they paying, and so they paying back off the loan. Then they become a seller of the phones there out of their spot in the building. They're like, you ain't even got to come to me to use the phone now. Now, you can get a microloan to get a phone at your own crib. Boom. This is how you ascend. This is how you get our people to gravitate up Jacob's ladder from low life slave to have life archangel investor. Now got it? Now I'm going to show y'all the reality of this global artificial Great Depression is being manufactured, and we're on the verge of it. So you got a decision to make. You're going to keep trying to do what you've been doing and take your chances? Or we're going to use the blueprint that was given to Joseph to invest in the people, 14-year period, while the whole world suffering, we able to distribute prosperity to the world. You decide. I'm just going to give you a couple snapshots.
For these companies from his collapse of the company and the dissolution of much of Khodorkovsky's wealth. This was a had already been established, and this small group of about 10 men became extremely unpopular. They also controlled between 50 and 70% of all Russian finances from 1996 to 2000.
1996 to 2000. The same period of time when this dude took investors and invested in Bangladesh and grew an economy. Now they generating $1.2 billion annually off of taking technology and some investors to a third world country and giving them access to first world. And we got third world countries in Chicago, third world countries in Brooklyn, third world countries in Camden. We got third world countries sitting right next to first world cash flow. Maryland. We sitting on all this first world cash flow, and we watching people all over the world. And we got all of these assets. Our cousins, our neighborhoods flowing. And so many of us have been blessed to touch a measure of wealth. And God like, yo, y'all ain't going to do nothing. Y'all ain't going to do nothing with it. Y'all not going to apply to Joseph 14 years. Y'all not going to do it. Y'all not going to apply to Jacob 14 years. Y'all ain't going to do it. All right. Don't be in Goshen with the blood over the doorpost when this depression hit. Be in Egypt without the blood over the doorpost. Don't transform your neighborhood into Goshen if you want to. This is what God is saying right now. All over the world, they telling y'all, yo, world dumping U.S. debt. Watch.
The growing. Now for our top international story this hour, we are examining the growing global trend of ditching the U.S. dollar. As this week, Russia announced it is working towards replacing the U.S. currency while conducting trade with African nations. Chairman of the Russia-Zimbabwe Business Council told reporters, quote, "I think it's possible to use other currencies in Africa," adding, "We know that the Russian bank VTB is planning to extend its activity in the region so we could switch to settlements in the currencies that are more convenient."
So what's even dirty about this is I just showed you that Putin, when he came into power, they showed you the chart from 1996 to 2000. Putin came in because Russia was a communist country, and he just picked 10, 15 families that was loyal to him and gave them all of the communist businesses, the oil mines, and just made them billionaires overnight. And now this artificially created wealth is now coming in coordination with China's artificial manufactured wealth. China did the same thing 30 years ago. The U.S. started outsourcing all of our manufacturing to China, talking about globalization, while investing in China's communist distribution of the wealth to the businesses who did the same thing in China that Russia did. And now they talk about, okay, now we're going to get rid of the U.S. dollar. So what happens in the U.S. when you sitting on U.S. dollars, but you haven't made no investments? Well, we haven't returned back to our covenant. What happens? It's called Venezuela. It's called Zimbabwe. It's called U.S. Great Depression. When all we have to do is step up. I'm stepping up. Just like Joseph was down in the dungeon. He said, yo, the king got a dream. Yo, I can tell you what's about to come, king. This is what's about to happen. And this is what you need to do. God has given you a window of opportunity. He said, I will always provide a way of escape. There is no temptation, but that is common. There is no business cycle. There is no attack on my people, but that is common. This ain't new. There's nothing new under the sun. I will always provide a way of escape. But the people, we had to go into joy. And God was like, listen, man, you ain't had to do nothing the first time when I parted the Red Sea. But if you're going to get to that promised land, this time you got to step in the water. You got to step in the water before it part. Because you need that bath. And you need to demonstrate that you believe. You done already seen, so I don't know how you don't believe. This is where we at. We done seen him move in the past. We done seen him take our brothers from nothing up to something. We done seen all over people go from poverty to being blessed. And we act like we don't know what we supposed to do. Only one of the 10 lepers came back to do the work of gratefulness. Only one. Only one came back to reinvest. Only one. Master, what can I do? What can I do to serve, to say thanks? What we can do is invest in our communities on an industrialized level. Collectively, uniformly, systematically, and then while the whole world is being taken through another artificial, our people gonna come to their covenant. Evangelism. You want to evangelize? Break bread. You give them to eat, is what he said. I'm just letting y'all know it's coming down. And I'm letting y'all know I'm not talking about...
Not only is it basic financial education, but we're also thinking about entrepreneurship.
Telling you what we do.
We've got curriculum that will help these young adults, these individuals in high school,
I'm telling you what we do.
Prepare to be future small business owners.
Entrepreneurship is really critical in this time and age right now. A lot of folks are going out and they're starting their own businesses. One of the things that we believe in at Fifth Third Bank is that small businesses and home ownership is critical to the strength of our communities. We believe that focusing on both entrepreneurship and personal financial literacy would help establish both of those goals.
And I'm saying it should be in every one of our... Listen, once again, these is teams that we already got in place.
When I think about...
And every last one of these communities where our teams are, that we done played in and coach people to championships, should have the program. Should be running the year-round program, and every last one of us should be investing the same way we investing. listen, March 1st, we launching the access to the public. But I'm coming back to all of my people in all of February, all of my teams. I call y'all the Archangel investors. We supposed to be the example. The disciples were the example because they had been the ones who was there when the master took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. They were sitting right there in his presence. They saw it. He gave them 24 baskets afterwards. Then they distributed the baskets and the people went down to the surrounding neighborhoods because the disciples had repeated that which they had been trained by the master. We have been our families were plucked from the generational curses of poverty. Our families was plucked from the war on drugs. Our families was plucked. My father, 18 first cousins, 2 of them not scarred by 30 year heroin, cocaine addictions. That's what Trenton, New Jersey is. Plucked from that to sit at the feet of the master. To what? Gorge ourselves? Ride off into the sunset? Get a white picket fence? This is what our people do to our people. This is what our people is doing all around the country. In the church, in the world, this is what our people is doing. That's why other people can gentrify our neighborhoods. Because our people, ungrateful, unfaithful. And if we don't unify, it's going to be a caste society in the USA just like it is in India. It's going to be a caste society. If y'all don't know, India got a class called the Untouchables. All y'all people of color, locked in. Untouchables. This is what we give our people. And we saying this should be in every single community. They should be simulating the investment that we put into their lives and the business plan that we give them. Then they could come 3 times a week, 4 times a week, sit down and go through the simulation. And then go out into the real world and apply that which they learned over a period of time, all while then also going and competing at the highest levels in leagues that we created, that we own, and then we pay them what they worth. I'm not telling you, yo, you got to take this indentured servitude and you better be grateful that we giving you an education. And they done sold you that is justified?
Finance Academy and working with high school students, it's exciting that they're on their own learning journey. It's important that we play a role in that, particularly as it relates to making sound financial decisions. They're going into an incredibly important stage in their life, and so when I think about the things that they might be considering, like, how do I pay for college? What should I be thinking about if I buy my first car? What types of forms do I need to fill out as I move into that stage of my life? What should I be thinking about in terms of my budget? These are the types of questions that we will help them answer in the Finance Academy. We'll also help them think through using good judgment and understanding how decisions have potentially a long-term impact in their lives. This is exciting that we get a chance to be a part of this learning journey with students through Finance Academy, and it's something that Fifth Third is really excited to play an important role in.
If every high school student that they were trying to recruit to go to college, if the NCAA made sure that every high school student that they selected to go to NCAA, and if every NFL and NBA player was taken, given a mentor from the ownership of the team who is employing them, given access to the same identical financial advisors that they go to and take the kids to annually. They got a documentary called Born Rich. Johnson & Johnson's son shot the documentary and documented how the top 1%, he exposed how his family and the families like them created the inequality gap. Every year they got the best financial planners and business people come in, and they all go to, like they go down to, people go to Vegas for sneaker con. They got a financial sneaker con every year. And they got a nerve to allow their players to play. And then 5 years after they leave the league, they broke and bankrupt. That's capitalizing on dehumanization economically. That's an opportunity to compete and show and give our people a choice. Now you get to choose. And if you choose to go that route and let them take advantage of you, so be it. But they're not going to back you into a corner like that's the only option in your life. Let me show you this other warning about the financial.
It's time to rediscover the...
Well, today that same Kruger rent's worth $1,500.
You talk about the bubbles going to burst. Billionaire
Printed more money than any time in world history.
Billionaire Robert Kiyosaki letting you know they printing money, and when they talk about the debt, they just saying that the Federal Reserve has printed money and they charging you every time they put money into circulation. And so now they saying now, because we've artificially charged you interest for putting money into the thing, and we took you off the gold standard so we could do this to you. 1971, we took you off the gold standard. Then started printing dollars not backed by anything, which causes inflation. Because we charge you interest for printing it and you getting access to the dollars, your own dollars, U.S. Treasury.
The fact is the Constitution, which is stronger than the amendments, the Constitution states that our leaders like Trump, the Senate, and the Congress can only control 35% of the budget. The rest of the budget is controlled by entitlements. So as military defense goes up because of his protracted wars and because of entitlements, the Constitution is required to fund them. And we're broke. So that means, where are we going from here? You cannot make any changes. So all this talk about, we're going to balance a budget. Well, we haven't balanced the budget since 1994. And we're just going deeper and deeper into the red. And as you guys know, between 2008 and 2018, in 10 years, we printed more money than any time in world history. And as I started
there it is. 2008 to 2018, printed more money ever than in world history. So now, it's an even bigger crisis than in 2008. And our people are doing the same thing. And all we're saying is, during that same time period, we've been partnering up with companies that invest in people. We've been going to individuals who have come from the Bronx, come from Baltimore, come from Brooklyn, come from Atlanta, who've created millionaires during the same exact recession in our community. So who better to align yourself with after one recession to find out how in the world do we help our people never go through this again? That has been my aim and my goal, my everyday dedication after losing half of my families in 2008 and 2009. And I said, never again. Never again will I sit back and let my people be scarred financially. If there's one cycle that I'm going to break, I will break that cycle. That will never happen. And here we are again. So we got the blueprint. I'm telling you, the end of 2021 will not come. And this financial system that God gave Joseph and God gave Hezekiah, before the Assyrians came knocking on the door, God took Hezekiah and them to take the people, Judah and Benjamin, back to the covenant. Finances was so in tune, like they had a Passover celebration that they had not seen in Israel since David's day. And then the Assyrians showed up at the door to go to war, and they had just carted off the other 10 tribes of Israel. They was gone, scattered to the face of the wind. And they thought they was going to come down to Jerusalem and Benjamin and do the same. But they was in the covenant. They was in the covenant. Couldn't touch them. God routed the Assyrians before his people. And they brothers, couple tribes over, did not have that same identical covering only because they was not engaging in the financial covenant that states my fruitfulness and my abundance comes from my marriage covenant with you. So we taking the lead, y'all. We taking the lead in New Jersey, in Brooklyn. My teams is on board in Philly. My teams is on board in Chicago. My teams is on board in Orlando. My teams is on board in LA. And everybody in our cities, all across the nation, if you went to Pine Forge, if you went to Oakwood with us, I don't care where you are, we're going to get to your city next. You can't wait till it's time to come to your city to invest. Right now, all of Jerusalem and Benjamin, every household came on board. So when the Assyrians came knocking, every household was covered. And because you break bread, because you bring your 5 loaves and your 2 fish, we are entering into a covenant. This is a merger and an acquisition. Same way Joseph rolled out and every one of them families and households came online, and Joseph said, all right, 1/5 of the harvest. Every household in Egypt broke, that's 20%. During his first 7 years, Joseph said, yo, I'm setting governors. Got a governor in Chicago. I got a governor in California. I got a governor here, And if you in the regions around that, if you happen to be in Arizona, if you happen to be down in Vegas, you happen to be whatever, yo, y'all all contribute as a region to that storehouse in LA. If you happen to be in Cleveland, Ohio, if you happen to be in whatever, your storehouse is in Chicago. And then when it's time to jump off Cleveland, the group that invested in Cleveland, the stadium, the teams, when we come to Cleveland, That's who we breaking bread with. Those who gave the fifth was the ones who was blessed not only in the harvest. They saw the increase that God said that they was going to see during the seventh because they committed to the merger and acquisition, but they also during the time of what? They had prime seat at the table because they had contributed. This is our blueprint, y'all. Deuteronomy 15, after every 7 years, wipe out the debt. How could they do it? If they were engaging in a he commanded them after every 7 years. Nobody in all of Israel, not one tribe, not one person, nobody. Those of y'all who have been blessed for being in this covenant, transform the lives of those who ain't in it. Whether they are a stranger, whether they are lost, make them whole. Give them another chance to start all over again. So when he came and said, you must be born again, he was explaining to them the cycle that we call the layer cycle that is already built into the financial covenant with him. They were reborn every year. My pops calls it the resting principle. Every 7 years, rest from the generational curse of poverty. Rest from being lost. Rest from being in the highways and the byways. I'm going to make you whole, send you back out again. If you get lost again after year number 3, you're going to serve out the rest of your time. But at the 7th year, we're going to make you whole again. Financially born again. He also told him, when I bless you with a harvest, don't take all of it for yourself. Leave the corners. Leave 25%. And because Boaz was faithful, I'm telling you about a financial built-in covenant with the Most High God that guarantees the whole nation's prosperity. And when Ruth and Naomi came from Moab, it's this Nubian Cushite descendant, Moab. That's Sodom and Gomorrah. That's the children of Lot. Lot had 2 daughters. His wife got turned into stone. His daughter slept with him. He had a son, Moab. This is descendants of Sodom and Gomorrah. Ruth and Naomi come to Israel because Boaz is so faithful in the financial covenant with God, it got him a queen that produced the Messiah. Leave the corners so that the strangers can glean. Ruth was a stranger. And when you faithful with God's, all these people around here, y'all talking about, I can't find me a man, I can't find. Listen, God done already orchestrated the person that's supposed to make you whole. Because you won't do it in the covenant is why it's unfruitful. Y'all got it? I'll be back later. Peace.